Hello, you beautiful kings and queens out there. Welcome back to my channel. I'm glad to see you here for another week. Or it's actually been some time. Had a few things going on in my life that kind of messed up my flow. I know it's still the beginning, but we're gonna get back to it. So this week I want to talk about. I know I want to tell some detail about the situation with my mother. It's a very toxic relationship with her. I have a very toxic relationship with family in general, but we're gonna hone in on the one with my mother. I'll give you some tips or like do's and don'ts of what worked for me during my time of dealing with all that transpired and happened. I will say we've got to a space where we don't talk at all. She's in her space and I'm in my space, and I feel like that's probably how it's going to be for the rest of our lives. And I've gotten to a space where I'm content with that. I'm okay with that, and it is what it is. But I'm focused on me being happy. I'm focused on my life being better and being the best self that I can be, because that's all I can do. And at the end of the day, she is her own person. Yes, she was my mother, and people get like, oh my gosh, but that was your mother, she gave birth to you. Yes, but she did more harm than good, and it's just best for us not to have a relationship, and that's okay. So getting into it, just dealing with, if you watch my other videos, and quick update, me and her started out as having a very good relationship, but things turned sour pretty much, and she got into this whole new state of being a different person and being in Christ and being in religion and things like that, and that became her obsession, and no longer was my brother and I important to her in that way. More specifically with me and her, it was a relationship of I was never good enough. Like, anything I did was always wrong. Anything I did was always wrong, and no matter what I did, I was always doing something that wasn't pleasing to her. And I really do truly believe that I was not a bad kid. I didn't do a whole bunch of stuff. I wasn't into a bunch of things. I listened to her all the time. And, the few moments that I did, go against her will or whatever, it was for my own benefit. And I felt like, that a teenager has their times where they go against it. But I feel like it was needed. It was something that was necessary. It wasn't something that was like, oh my gosh, you did something completely that was going to ruin your life, or, mess up just the whole thing of society. Like, oh my gosh, kids shouldn't do drugs. Kids shouldn't do this. Kids shouldn't do that. And everybody believes differently. But I wasn't into those things. I wasn't into drugs. I wasn't into drinking. And, not knowing, no offense to anybody that did, that's you. But I was just on this path of always trying to please her and make her happy. And it was just constantly like I wasn't good enough. It pretty much came to the point where I figured out that, I think my mom was jealous of me. She would always say, in the beginnings of when we had a good relationship, she would always tell me, I'm beautiful, and that, I meant a lot to her, and that she would always just encourage me and tell me, oh, because I used to have, I'm doing better. But, a lot of women struggle with insecurities and feeling like they're not worthy, feeling like they're not beautiful. And in the beginnings of our relationship, when I was really, really young, she really implemented, no, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that. But that eventually turned into her, making comments of oh, you're a hoe, you're a thought, you sleep around, you're pretty much just, she would always say horrible sexual things about me, and pretty much insinuate that I wasn't good enough for anyone. And it was very difficult to deal with, but I'm here. I persevered. I got through it. Um, it's just a struggle. But do know that, my situation and everything that I went through is unique to me. People may have similarities or they can like highly relate to it, but your situation is going to be only your situation, and that's unique to you and whoever you have the toxic relationship with. So just be mindful. Just be mindful of that, and not everything you hear. That's a tip. Not everything you hear from other people needs to be implemented or taken into consideration for what you're going through. A lot of people have opinions about what you should do, how you should do this, or like, so what I went through as far as that tip of like not just being wary of getting advice from other people is that there was a lot of people who knew that our relationship went sour, and they knew that things weren't good, and they were being nosy and they were trying to stick their nose. So when they would see me, they would, try to give me advice on like how to deal with her and stuff like that. I was like, well, first of all, you barely know my mom, and you don't even know the first thing about what's going on between us. You just heard this one thing, but you don't really know truly what's going on. And I do. And they would just kind of try to be nosy, like try to get into the business of what's going on. And, I was smarter than that, and I wouldn't tell them. But then they would go back to her and be like, oh, she said this, she said that. I'd just be lying out the ass. But, whatever. So I just had to be very careful about like listening to other people and like their opinion of what they thought I should do and stuff like that, and actually implementing that into try to like how to deal with the relationship with her, like whether I was trying to reconcile or whether I was just trying to manage everything that was going on. I had to be very, very careful about that, and you should too. Even just listening to my story and the advice that I'm giving you, this is what worked for me, and that may not work for you. You just have to, you can listen, but definitely like make heavy consideration to before you start implementing anything or trying to actually do things, because that can make things worse for you. It could make things better, which is of course a plus, but there's a possibility that can make things worse, and you don't want that, and that can definitely take a toll on your mental health and your emotional health, and it's not worth it. So just be very careful and very mindful of who you listen to, what advice you do implement, what advice you take to heart. Just be very mindful of that. Another thing that helped me that I had to do was I really had to separate myself. I had to take myself out of the situation, because literally the back and forth and the whole the back and forth and the whole aspect of her just like constantly telling me I'm just constantly feeding me bad energy, like that was not good, and that affected my everyday life. And I was going to school, I was doing things that I needed to do, and that wasn't it. Well, for my situation, like I did separate myself, but in hindsight, like the basis of it was she abandoned me. So she left me high and dry. But when there came times where we were in the same room, or we ended up at the same event or something like that, I immediately separated myself, because that was to protect myself and protect my energy, because I know I wasn't in a good space to be around her, or to even like take in any of the toxicity that she was gonna give out to me. I wasn't in a stage where I was ready for that, and I didn't want to deal with it. So I had to separate myself. A lot of people would try to force me. They would try to set me up into like conversations, or they would invite us to the same thing knowing that I didn't want to be there in the room with her. They're just trying to get into the situation that they don't really know in depth what's really going on. So separating yourself and protecting yourself is definitely a key thing as well. You have to protect you first, and no matter who it is, whether it's a parent, whether it's a family member, it doesn't matter. Like, the whole societal thing, like, oh my gosh, like this person has a certain stature or a certain respect you have to give, you need to first respect yourself, and you need to put yourself first before anyone else, no matter who it is. So definitely take care of you first, and that is separating yourself from the situation or that person. Take yourself out of it until you're truly in a space where you can like deal with it and handle it and such like that. Another thing I did was well, I'll be honest, I did not write a letter until recently, and it would like truly help me break through to like a whole nother level of healing. But writing a letter to express your pain and your emotions and all the things that you felt towards that person, to that person. Not saying to give it to them, not saying to have the conversation with them about it, but just pouring your heart out onto paper. And all, even the cursing, the languages, you want them to die, like the hate, put it all down on the paper, because that's truly going to just like empty your heart and your body of all the emotions and trauma and things that just been pent up and built up within you. And it definitely helps. Like I saw, like when I did it, I felt like such like a heavy load. I felt so light, and like a load was just lifted off of me, and it definitely made me feel like much better. And I wish I did it earlier, but I didn't. It is what it is. I feel like it came at the right time of when it needed to happen, and that's just how it is. I kind of, back when I was in college, when things were still like fresh, and it was still like I was still being affected by everything that was going on with her, and her ignoring me, or us showing up to events and then her saying things about me. There was always someone telling me what she said about me. She was making up lies. There was a lot of things she was doing. She would make up lies. Like she told people that I was pregnant. I had announced to everybody that I was getting married. And she tried to tell people like that it was a shotgun wedding. I was like, I haven't even talked to you. There was people who I talked to, and she would pretend like she talked to me like the other day, and just to like put a front up for them. And it was just a bunch of what the fuck. Didn't make sense. Hearing all those things were definitely affecting me to the degree of like I was having a hard time getting my work done. I was having a hard time like focusing, and all my energy and my worrying things were being put into that situation, because I would just randomly, I would be somewhere or go somewhere, and somebody would just pop up and be like, oh, your mama said this, your mama said that. And it's like, bro, what the heck? And it was really stressing me out. So I went to therapy. Like I was like, okay, like I was scared, because that's a stigma. Like I guess a stigma. Like I feel like a stigma in our community, like, oh, you don't, like, why would you talk to somebody else about your business? Like we don't do that, like in the Black culture is like, you don't tell people outside of our household what's going on, which I feel like is very toxic. Like having a therapist is not even that. It's just talking to a person who has to have confidentiality, by the way, that's outside and objective, and they can definitely give you like tips and tricks on how to better handle your situation and to help heal you and get you to another space. So like just defeating the stigma of that, like you shouldn't go talk to someone outside of your family or whatever about what's going on. Those can actually be the best people to talk to, because they can give an outside looking in perspective, and that could definitely heal you in a different way. But make sure they're licensed. Make sure like Find a person who you feel like you can relate to and vibe with, and like you feel that really understands you. Not every therapist is for you. Just because they're a therapist doesn't mean that they're the right one for you. You have to sift through and find the right person you feel like you connect with. And I was able to do that. In college, I was able to go to we had like a little organization thing, and pretty much they offered therapy, and I did it, and it was very helpful. And the best thing that I got out of that is she brought me to a place of, she said, you need to grieve the loss of your mother. And for everybody, it won't be, that situation, but grieve the loss of losing what you needed in those moments. You truly need to go through like the grieving process. And I think I don't know everything, but it's like denial, anger, like the 7 stages of grief. Go through that with the situation, whatever the situation is. So my situation was with my mom. I had to grieve the loss of not having a mother that I needed when I was younger. And that truly, truly got me to like a space of like not being so affected by everything that was happening. It put me in a place of like, I don't give a F, like I don't care, I'm doing me. I need to focus on me, and I can't change any situation. And she was never that for me in the first place. Granted, I may have went a little too far with it, I think, because it put me in a place of like, I don't care about you, and that caused me to develop a hate for her. And that's definitely not a good place to be. But that was a place I was in. So grieving the loss of not having a mother that I needed in that time, and a mother that not doing the things that was needed for me to be an even better person. I grieved that, and it definitely helped a lot. But it did put me in a place of like, I hate her. I don't have any feelings towards her. I don't care about her. If something was to happen, if somebody was to call me and say she died, something happened to her, I wouldn't care. Like, I don't think I would shed a tear. I wouldn't, because it was just like, going through the grieving process made me realize like all the things she did to me, and all the times that I kept putting myself out there, and she just kept like biting me. Like I just kept putting my hand, and I kept getting bit, and she just kept doing it, and I was being dumb and allowing it to happen. But not saying I regret doing that, because it definitely taught me a lot, and it definitely made me stronger, which is always a plus. Gaining strength and having the ability to like really deal and overcome a situation definitely helps you later on in life. But there are different ways that you can gain strength other than being bit. But yeah, I pretty much got to that place. And then once I got to that place, I'd like cut her off completely. Like, I just avoided any situations or any things or any conversations that had to deal with her. I shut it down. I set my boundary, like, hey, no, I'm not dealing with that anymore. I'm focused on me. I'm gonna make me better, and I don't care about her. And that's that. And that was the stage I was in after I think getting out of college. It was to the point where, you guys heard the story about, if you didn't, go check the other video about her ruining my high school graduation. When I graduated from college, I did not invite her. I was like, I'm taking back that situation, and I'm gonna have a great situation. Granted, another situation happened, but I feel like it still didn't ruin me taking back that moment of graduating and being proud and happy with myself, and not having that toxicity of everything that she did when I was in high school, which was awesome. But, setting my boundaries and letting people know, like, hey, I ain't dealing with that anymore. I think I ended up blocking her number. I didn't accept no advice, no nothing. I just let it all be. And then I went inward. I started working on myself and started working on healing all the traumas that I had. Not just the traumas of the toxic relationship with her, but just all traumas that I experienced in my life in general, I began to do the work to heal those parts of me. Because what is the benefit of keeping all those parts of you and just remaining hurt and remaining sad and remaining angry? Like, you're not going to get anywhere further in life having all that baggage on you. So like, that's just a journey I've been on, just constantly like working on to improve myself, gaining new perspectives, learning new things, and definitely taking myself to a whole new level of confidence, taking myself to a whole new level of believing in myself, wanting to chase my dreams and aspirations and things like that. It definitely took me to a whole new level, and I don't ever see myself going back. And I just continually see myself continually healing all the parts of myself that healing all the parts of myself that need healing. Let's just say that. I will continue to do that for the rest of my life if need be, because there's some situations that they took over a decade to form. So know that something that took over a decade to form is not going to just drop off overnight. I had to learn that the hard way. Something that produced over a decade can take over a decade or more to undo and to heal and truly like get to a new space with it. Now there's some things that can happen overnight, and there's a shift, and you can for some people out there who understand, you can do like Reiki healings or candle magic, and you can do all different types of things to speed up that process too. But also know that it's gonna take time, and things don't just snap. All those years of trauma are just erased. Like, no, it takes time to revert, take your thoughts and reprocess your thought process, and get rid of limiting beliefs that were implemented. And you're like, how could I ever have believed that? But it's like, the people that you look up to, and you thought that the people that were there for you, you thought that like they were right. Everything that they said was right. And they taught you these things that is just like, why did I ever believe that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But that's what you grew up on. That's the path. I really feel like I'm not in a space where it's like, why me? Why did that happen? And like blame, because I was at a space where I did blame God, or like, why did you put me through all these situations? Like, why did I have to go through all this hardship? And like, why couldn't I have a good life like these other people that I seen, or these other kids that I experienced? Like, why couldn't I have a good life like them? But I'm now in the space where like I'm truly grateful of all those things that I did go through, because I am who I am today because of them. I have the strength that I have because of that. I have the resilience and all the tips and the things and advice that I can give to other people because I went through those things. And just knowing that was my journey. And I love that was my journey, because I've gotten to where I am today. And I have the relationship I have the friendships I have the relationship I have with myself now. Like, I would never have I can't say never, but it seems unlikely that I would be in the space I am if I didn't experience that path, and I'm truly grateful for being able to experience that path. I'm definitely in a new space about it. So the last tip I have is be open to reconcile, but also be in a space of protecting yourself and your own energy. So I truly believe that if ever my mom was to reach out and she wanted to like truly sit down and reconcile and talk about everything that happened, I feel like I'm so far healed in myself that whatever goes down in the conversation now, I can walk away not being affected if it doesn't go right. You need to make sure that you're in a space so where like if things don't go right, it's not going to put you back in a space of being traumatized and back in a space of having to go through all those processes again to re-heal yourself. And everyone has free will. You can choose what you want. If you feel like you want to do that and you want to redo the work again, cool, like, do you. But I've came so far in my healing journey that, like, I'm not about to just let this one situation revert me all the way back from all the work that I've done to then have to redo it again. Granted, that could be a whole nother aspect of healing, but I'm not trying to do that. That's not the space I'm in, and I don't think that's not for me. But I truly feel like if the relationship is meant to heal and for you guys to come back together, the opportunity will present itself. They say the stars will align, everything will come together in the way. Just let it be and take it as it comes. And if the opportunity never comes, be okay with that. And I'm okay with that. I truly feel like that opportunity for us has passed, and I don't think it'll ever come back. I think to the day that she dies or I die or whatever situation comes, we will not ever talk again. And I'm okay with that. I have definitely come so far to the space where I'm okay with that. I've gone through the processes of, like, okay, I had to go through the process of her not being there for my wedding, her not having a grandma from my side, my kids growing up and not knowing who she is. Like, you have to go through, like, that part comes in the grieving process. Like, processing all those moments and truly thinking about them, and just be like, okay, like, it's not going to happen. And, don't even hold, I would say for me, I couldn't even hold out hope, because for me, holding out hope makes me, like, very anxious and try to control and keep, like, pushing for that 1% of situation that everything could just work out. And I couldn't do that. I need to just, like, get the bad and ugly, like, hey, she's never going to be in your life again. All these things that, you typically have a mother in your life for, like, growing up and being a mother and stuff like that, getting tips from them, getting help from them, or them being there for you, or you being able to talk to them. You're not going to have that. And it's never going to happen. That's the raw truth. It's never going to happen. And that's the place that I had to get to so that I can be where I'm at right now. And I truly feel good. I wouldn't say that I don't care, but the emotional aspect is gone for me. So it's just like, I've just truly come to a place of acceptance. If the opportunity was to ever present itself in the right way, and I feel like, it's not going to mess me up, I would definitely take that opportunity. But if it never comes, I'm okay with that. And you truly have to, like, be in that space. And, like I said in the beginning, everyone's situation is different. Everyone's situation is unique to them and the other person that they have the toxic relationship with. So always, always, always evaluate your situation for what your situation is, and implement things that you feel like will benefit your unique situation. But yeah, I hope these tips were able to help you or get you thinking or lead you in a direction of figuring out something that is going to help you in your situation. I definitely know, like, all these things definitely helped me, and it was not, let's give it a timeline. I think 2015. I think like the end of 2014, 2015 is when my mom abandoned me. And there were, I want to say, like 2017, 2018, we tried to reconcile again. It didn't work. And now we don't ever talk at all. If I see her, we don't speak. We tried that, didn't work out. It didn't work out. But yeah, I definitely got five, 6. No, I don't include this year because it's just the beginning of this year. 5 years it took me to get to the point where I'm at. And the whole situation of all things that happened was 18 years. So I still got healing to do, of course. But 5 years from the 18 years of trauma, of things that happened, in 5 years I am where I am. And I know, like, I'm only going to progress even more from here. Like, it definitely takes time. So be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. And protect yourself. Protect your energy. And be there for you. That's what matters. I hope you guys learned something. You could relate in any way. I'll definitely be back next week. I'm going to try and be more consistent. But definitely like this video if you feel like you resonated with it. Leave a comment of anything you would like to leave a comment about. Encouragement, your situation. You know, let's be helpful and supportive in the comments as well. And share this video, please. I'll see you guys back next week. I don't know what we're talking about, but I will be back. Thank you. Bye-bye.